Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Chapter 1: The Breaking Point. Sarah stared at the stack of bills on her kitchen table, her head pounding. Between her demanding job at a law firm in bustling Chicago, endless family obligations, and never-ending financial worries, she felt like she was drowning in a sea of responsibilities. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed, casting a harsh glow over the papers that seemed to mock her. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered, burying her face in her hands. The words echoed through the empty apartment, a stark reminder of her isolation. Her husband had left 2 years ago, unable to cope with the stress. Sarah had thrown herself into work, trying to numb the pain, but it only left her feeling more exhausted and alone. She glanced at the clock. 2 a.m. Another sleepless night, tossing and turning as anxiety gnawed at her stomach. The bills weren't going to pay themselves, but she couldn't muster the energy to tackle them. Her boss had been piling on more and more work, sensing her desperation. She knew she should speak up, set boundaries, but the fear of losing her job paralyzed her. With a sigh, she pushed back from the table, her chair scraping against the linoleum floor. She shuffled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face. In the mirror, she hardly recognized the dark circles under her eyes, the worry lines etched into her forehead. Where had the vibrant, ambitious woman she used to be gone? She used to have dreams, traveling the world, starting her own firm, maybe even finding love again. Now, all she could think about was surviving the next day. As she leaned against the sink, the weight of her situation pressed down on her like a heavy blanket. The apartment felt suffocating, the walls closing in on her. She opened the window, hoping for a breeze, but the night air was still and thick. The distant sounds of the city, honking cars, muffled voices, and the faint echo of a train felt like a reminder of the life she was missing out on. "God, if you're there, I need you," she whispered into the darkness. But the only sound that answered was the ticking of the clock, a constant reminder of time slipping away. Sarah closed her eyes, trying to find solace in the silence, but her thoughts raced. What would happen if she lost her job? What would she do if she couldn't pay the rent? The what-if swirled in her mind, robbing her of peace. She sank down on the edge of the bathtub, wrapping her arms around herself. The cool porcelain felt grounding against her skin, a small comfort in the midst of her turmoil. She thought about her parents, how they had always taught her to work hard and push through adversity. But what if pushing through was no longer the answer? What if she needed to let go? As she sat there, the familiar words of Matthew 11 verse 28 floated into her mind. "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." The verse had been drilled into her as a child, recited during Sunday school, but now it felt like a lifeline in the stormy sea of her life. The promise of rest seemed so foreign, so unattainable, yet it tugged at her heart. With a heavy sigh, she rolled over and closed her eyes, praying for sleep to come. But instead, her mind raced with thoughts of the next day. She had a meeting with a client who was notoriously difficult, and the pressure of making a good impression weighed heavily on her. What if she messed it up? What if she disappointed everyone again? Finally, fatigue began to pull her under. As she drifted off, she clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow would be different. Maybe she would find the courage to ask for help, to admit that she couldn't do it all alone. But as dawn broke, the sun spilling light into her bedroom, the weight of reality settled back in. She rolled out of bed, her body aching from the tension of the night before. The day stretched before her like an endless road, and she took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever lay ahead. In the shower, she tried to wash away the remnants of her worry, letting the hot water cascade over her. She recited the verse again in her mind, clinging to the promise it held. "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden." As she dressed, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked weary, but there was a flicker of determination in her eyes. Today would be a turning point, she decided. She would take one small step towards change, even if it was just a whisper of hope in a world that felt overwhelmingly dark. With her heart pounding, she grabbed her bag and headed out the door, ready to face the day, even if she didn't know how. The bustling streets of Chicago awaited her, filled with the promise of possibility and the chance to reclaim her life. Chapter 2. A Chance Encounter. The morning rush hour was in full swing as Sarah navigated the bustling streets of downtown. The sidewalks were crowded with people hurrying to their offices, their faces a blur of determination and distraction. She felt like a ghost among them, moving through the noise without truly being seen. As she approached the corner cafe, her mind was racing with thoughts of the day ahead. She needed caffeine. No, she needed a miracle. The cafe was packed, and she joined the line, tapping her foot impatiently. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, but it did little to soothe her frayed nerves. Just as she reached the counter, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her boss. "Don't forget about the client meeting at 10. We need to impress them." Sarah's stomach twisted. She had been preparing for this meeting for weeks, but the pressure was suffocating. "Excuse me." A voice broke through her thoughts. Sarah turned to see a woman in her 30s, her curly hair bouncing as she rushed past. The woman accidentally bumped into Sarah, causing her to spill her coffee all over her blouse. "Oh no. I'm so sorry," the woman exclaimed, her eyes wide with concern. "Let me buy you a new one." "I can't believe I did that." Sarah couldn't help but laugh, despite the embarrassment. "It's okay. It's just coffee. I probably needed a change of clothes anyway." The woman smiled, her warmth infectious. "I'm Sophia, by the way. Can I make it up to you with a latte?" "My treat." "Sure, why not?" Sarah replied, grateful for the unexpected kindness. As they waited for their drinks, the two women fell into easy conversation. Sophia had a vibrant energy that drew Sarah in, making her momentarily forget the weight of her worries. "So, what do you do?" Sophia asked, tilting her head curiously. "I'm a paralegal at a law firm," Sarah said, trying to sound more enthusiastic than she felt. "It's intense, to say the least." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "Intense can be good, but it can also be overwhelming. You seem like you're carrying a lot on your shoulders." Sarah hesitated, unsure of how much to share with a stranger. But there was something about Sophia's genuine interest that made her want to open up. "I guess I am. It feels like I'm constantly juggling work, bills, and just trying to keep my head above water. Sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it." Sophia nodded, her expression softening. "I've been there. Life can throw some heavy burdens our way. But, there's a verse that really helped me during my toughest times." She reached into her purse and pulled out a well-worn Bible. Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." It's a reminder that we don't have to carry our burdens alone. Sarah felt a flicker of recognition at the verse. It had been a part of her upbringing, but she hadn't thought about it in years. "I remember that," she said softly. "It's comforting, but it's hard to let go of everything." Sophia smiled knowingly. "It is hard. But sometimes we have to let go of the life we planned in order to live the life we're meant for." Trusting that there's a greater plan can be incredibly freeing. As their drinks were ready, Sarah took a moment to absorb Sophia's words. There was a lightness in Sophia's demeanor that intrigued her. "How did you find that freedom?" she asked, genuinely curious. Sophia took a sip of her latte, her eyes sparkling. "It wasn't easy. I had to face my fears and make some tough decisions. I left a job that was draining me and started a nonprofit to help women in crisis. It was scary, but it was also the best decision I ever made." Sarah felt a pang of envy mixed with admiration. "That sounds incredible. I wish I had the courage to do something like that." Sophia leaned in, her voice earnest. "You have that courage within you, Sarah. Sometimes it just takes a little nudge to find it. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just take one small step." As they chatted, Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen and understood. Sophia's encouragement ignited a spark of hope within her, a flicker of possibility that maybe she could change her situation. When it was time to part ways, Sophia handed Sarah a small card with her contact information. "If you ever want to talk or need a friend, don't hesitate to reach out. I believe in you." Sarah clutched the card tightly, a smile breaking through her earlier gloom. "Thank you, Sophia. I really appreciate this." You've made my day a lot brighter." As she walked away, the weight on her shoulders felt a little lighter. The world didn't seem quite so daunting anymore. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to reclaim her life. With Matthew 11 verse 28 echoing in her mind, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to face the day ahead. Chapter 3. Leaps of Faith. Over the next few weeks, Sarah found herself thinking about her chance encounter with Sophia more and more. The woman's words had struck a chord deep within her, awakening a desire for change that she had long suppressed. As she sat in her cubicle, staring at the endless stream of emails and legal documents, Sarah couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dissatisfaction. The work that had once challenged and fulfilled her now felt like a heavy weight, dragging her down with each passing day. One afternoon, as she was preparing for yet another client meeting, Sarah's boss popped his head into her cubicle. "Sarah, can I see you in my office for a minute?" Her heart sank. Had she done something wrong? As she stepped into his office, she noticed a stack of papers on his desk. "What's up, Mark?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mark gestured to the papers. "I wanted to talk to you about your workload. I know things have been crazy lately, and I appreciate how hard you've been working. But I can't help but notice that you seem a bit overwhelmed." Sarah felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. Had her stress been that obvious? "I'm fine really," she lied, forcing a smile. "Just a lot going on, that's all." Mark leaned back in his chair, studying her intently. "Look, Sarah, I know you're a valuable asset to this firm. But I also know that you can't pour from an empty cup. Maybe it's time to start setting some boundaries and delegating more." His words hit her like a ton of bricks. Boundaries? Delegating? The very thought of it made her anxious. What if she couldn't handle it all? What if she let everyone down? As if sensing her inner turmoil, Mark continued, "I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Change never is. But you can't keep running yourself ragged like this. It's not sustainable." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. "I understand. I'll try to figure something out." Mark smiled encouragingly. "That's all I ask. Take some time this week to reassess your priorities and your workload. If you need to adjust your schedule or take some time off, just let me know." As Sarah walked back to her cubicle, she felt a mixture of emotions swirling within her. Relief that her boss had noticed her struggle and was willing to help. Fear of the unknown and the changes that lay ahead. And a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, she could find a way to reclaim her life. That evening, as she sat on her couch with a glass of wine, Sarah opened her Bible to Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30. The words seemed to jump off the page, speaking directly to her heart. "Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." She closed her eyes, letting the words wash over her. It was a promise of rest, of a lighter load. But it also required action on her part. She needed to take the first step, to trust that God would guide her. With a deep breath, Sarah began to make a list of her priorities. Her job, of course, but also her health, her relationships, and her dreams. She realized that in her quest to be everything to everyone, she had lost sight of what truly mattered. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began taking small steps to reclaim her life. She set boundaries at work, delegating tasks and saying no to overtime. She cut back on expenses and picked up a part-time job at a local bookstore, determined to get her finances under control. But as her schedule lightened and she had more time for herself, Sarah's anxiety spiked. What if she was making a mistake? What if she couldn't handle it all? In her moments of doubt, she would turn to Matthew 11 verse 29, reminding herself to take Christ's yoke upon her and learn from him. One evening, as she was shelving books at the bookstore, Sophia walked in. Sarah's face lit up with recognition. "Sophia, what a surprise." Sophia grinned, pulling her into a warm hug. "Sarah, I was hoping I'd run into you here. How have you been?" Sarah hesitated, unsure of how much to share. "Honestly, it's been a journey. I've been trying to make some changes, but it's not always easy." Sophia nodded sympathetically. "Change rarely is. But I can see the light in your eyes, Sarah. You're on the right path." Sarah felt a surge of gratitude towards this woman who had become an unexpected mentor. Thank you, Sophia, for everything. Your words really stuck with me, you know? They gave me the courage to take that first step. Sophia squeezed her hand, her eyes shining with pride. I knew they would. You have so much potential, Sarah. Don't be afraid to dream big and trust that God has a plan for you. As Sophia browsed the shelves, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed in just a few short weeks. She was still navigating the challenges, still facing moments of doubt and fear. But with each step she took, she felt a little lighter, a little freer. And as she looked towards the future, she couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. What adventures lay ahead? What dreams might she dare to chase? With God by her side and Sophia's encouragement in her heart, Sarah knew that anything was possible. Chapter 4: The Black Moment. Just when Sarah thought she was making progress, disaster struck. It was a crisp Friday morning when she woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing incessantly. Groggy and disoriented, she fumbled for her phone on the nightstand and squinted at the screen. Your car has broken down. Please call for assistance. Her heart sank. The message was from her car's onboard diagnostic system, a feature she had thought would be a blessing but now felt like a cruel joke. She rushed to the window and peered outside. Her old sedan sat in the driveway, looking innocent enough, but she could already sense the trouble brewing beneath the hood. After a quick breakfast, Sarah grabbed her keys and headed outside, her stomach churning with anxiety. She turned the ignition, but the engine sputtered and died, leaving her with nothing but silence. Panic surged within her. She had just started to feel like she was gaining control of her life, and now this? Great. Just great, she muttered under her breath. She pulled out her phone and called a tow service. As she waited, her mind raced with a million thoughts. How much would this cost? Could she afford the repairs? She had just begun to stabilize her finances, and now this unexpected expense threatened to derail everything. When the tow truck finally arrived, the driver assessed the situation with a practiced eye. Looks like the alternator's shot. You'll need a new one, he said, scratching his head. Should be a couple $100, maybe more. Sarah felt her heart drop. A couple $100? I don't have that right now, she replied, her voice shaky. The driver shrugged, his expression sympathetic but firm. I can take it to the shop, but you'll need to figure out how to pay for it. As she watched the truck drive away with her car in tow, a wave of despair washed over her. She felt like she was back at square one, the weight of the world crushing her once more. She had been making progress, setting boundaries, pursuing her dreams, but now it all felt like a cruel joke. That evening, Sarah sat on her couch, the bills spread out before her like a battlefield. She had just received her paycheck, but it barely covered the essentials. Rent, groceries, utilities. There was nothing left for unexpected expenses. She felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the gnawing anxiety that had plagued her for so long. Why is this happening? She whispered into the silence of her apartment. I'm trying so hard to change my life, and yet it feels like the universe is conspiring against me. In that moment, she felt utterly alone. The weight of her struggles pressed down on her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that she was fighting a losing battle. She picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts, hesitating over Sophia's name. Would it be too much to reach out? Would she be seen as a failure? As tears streamed down her cheeks, she finally hit dial. The phone rang, each tone echoing her uncertainty. When Sophia answered, her voice was warm and inviting. Sarah, it's so good to hear from you. How are you? Not great, Sarah admitted, her voice breaking. I've had a really rough day. My car broke down, and I'm not sure how I'm going to pay for the repairs. I feel like everything is falling apart again. There was a pause on the other end, and Sarah could almost hear Sophia processing her words. I'm so sorry to hear that, Sarah. It's tough when things start piling up like that. Do you want to talk about it? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her burdens begin to lift just a little. I feel like I'm finally making progress in my life, and then this happens. I don't know if I can handle it all. I thought I was doing the right thing by simplifying my life, but now I'm just scared. Sophia's voice was steady and reassuring. It's completely normal to feel scared, especially when life throws unexpected challenges your way. But remember, you don't have to carry this burden alone. It's okay to ask for help. I just don't want to be a burden to anyone, Sarah confessed, her heart racing. Sarah, reaching out for support doesn't make you a burden. It makes you human. We all have moments when we need a little extra help. You've been so brave in making changes in your life. Don't let one setback derail you. You're stronger than you think. As Sophia spoke, Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Thank you, Sophia. I really needed to hear that. I guess I just feel overwhelmed right now. I understand. Why don't we meet for coffee tomorrow? We can brainstorm some solutions together, Sophia suggested. Sarah hesitated, but the thought of connecting with someone who understood her struggles was comforting. Okay, that sounds good. I'd like that. After hanging up, Sarah sat in silence, the weight of her worries still heavy but a little more bearable. She picked up her Bible from the coffee table and opened it to Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30. The words seemed to resonate even deeper now. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, allowing the promise of rest to wash over her. It was a reminder that she didn't have to face her challenges alone. The path ahead might be rocky, but she had the strength to navigate it, especially with the support of friends like Sophia. As she prepared for bed that night, Sarah felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. Yes, she was facing a difficult moment, but it didn't define her. She would rise from this setback, stronger and more resilient than before. Tomorrow was a new day, and with it came the opportunity to take another step forward. Chapter 5: Surrender and Rest. The next morning, Sarah woke up with a sense of cautious optimism. The sun streamed through her window, bathing the room in a warm glow. She took a moment to breathe deeply, letting the light fill her with a renewed sense of hope. Today was the day she would meet Sophia for coffee, and she was determined to find a way forward. As she got ready, Sarah reflected on the conversation they had planned. She felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. What if she couldn't articulate her feelings? What if she overwhelmed Sophia with her problems? But deep down, she knew she needed this. She needed to share her burdens with someone who understood. After a quick breakfast, she grabbed her purse and headed out the door, her heart racing with anticipation. The cafe was just a few blocks away, and as she walked, she recited the familiar words of Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30 in her mind, reminding herself of the promise of rest. When she arrived at the cafe, Sophia was already seated at a corner table, her curly hair bouncing as she waved enthusiastically. Sarah, over here. Sarah's heart lifted at the sight of her friend. Sophia's energy was infectious, and as she approached the table, she felt a sense of relief wash over her. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding into the chair across from Sophia. Of course. I've been looking forward to this, Sophia replied, her eyes sparkling. So, tell me everything. What's been going on? As Sarah began to share her recent struggles, she felt the weight of her worries begin to lift. I thought I was finally getting my life together, but then my car broke down, and now I'm facing unexpected expenses. It's just so overwhelming. Sophia listened intently, nodding in understanding. I can imagine. It's frustrating when things don't go as planned. But remember, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're human, and you're going through a lot. I know, but I keep thinking that I should be able to handle it all. I don't want to be a burden to anyone, Sarah admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Sarah, reaching out for help is not a burden. It's a sign of strength. You're not meant to carry everything alone. It's okay to lean on others when you need to, Sophia said gently. As they sipped their coffee, Sarah felt a sense of comfort in Sophia's words. I guess I've always been the one who takes care of others. I'm not used to asking for help. Sophia smiled knowingly. That's a common struggle. But think about it this way. When you allow others to help you, you're also giving them the opportunity to be there for you. It creates a bond, a sense of community. Sarah nodded, contemplating this new perspective. You're right. Maybe I need to change my mindset about asking for help. Sophia leaned in, her voice earnest. And remember, surrendering your burdens doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that you don't have to carry them alone. God wants to help you. You just have to let Him in. As they continued to talk, Sarah felt a sense of clarity emerging. She realized that she had been holding on tightly to her worries, trying to control every aspect of her life. But perhaps it was time to surrender that control and trust in a higher plan. After their coffee, Sophia suggested they take a walk in the nearby park. "Let's get some fresh air and clear our minds," she said, standing up and stretching. The park was alive with the sounds of laughter, children playing, and birds chirping. As they strolled along the path, Sarah felt the tension in her shoulders begin to ease. The beauty of nature surrounded her, and for the first time in a while, she felt a sense of peace. "Look at that tree," Sophia said, pointing to a large oak with sprawling branches. "It's strong and sturdy, but it also bends with the wind. It knows when to hold firm and when to let go. We can learn a lot from nature." Sarah smiled, taking in the sight of the tree. "I've never thought about it that way. Maybe I need to learn to bend a little instead of trying to stand rigidly against the storms of life." Exactly. Life is full of ups and downs, and it's okay to adapt. Just like that tree, you can be strong while also allowing yourself to be flexible, Sophia encouraged. As they walked, Sarah began to feel lighter. The burdens she had been carrying seemed less daunting in the presence of her friend. She realized that she didn't have to have all the answers right now. What mattered was that she was taking steps forward, one day at a time. Later that evening, as she settled into bed, Sarah picked up her Bible and opened it to Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30 once more. This time, the words resonated even deeper within her soul. "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." With tears in her eyes, she whispered a prayer of surrender. "God, I'm tired of fighting this battle alone. I'm ready to let go of my burdens and trust in you. Please guide me and give me the strength to face whatever comes next." As she closed her eyes, a profound sense of peace enveloped her. She felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, she was content to rest in the knowledge that she didn't have to face them alone. With a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to embrace change, Sarah drifted off to sleep, ready to wake up to a new day filled with possibilities. Chapter 6: A New Path. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began to embrace her newfound freedom. With the help of a local mechanic and a generous loan from Sophia, she was able to get her car back on the road. It was a relief to have that weight off her shoulders, but it also opened up new possibilities. As she drove to work one morning, she found herself taking a different route, one that led her past the law firm where she had spent so many years. She slowed down, looking up at the towering building, and felt a strange sense of detachment. It was as if she was seeing it with new eyes, as a place that no longer defined her. That evening, as she sat at her desk, staring at the endless stream of emails and documents, Sarah found herself questioning her purpose. Was this really what she wanted to do for the rest of her life? Buried in paperwork, constantly striving to meet deadlines and impress clients? She thought back to her conversation with Sophia about letting go of the life she had planned in order to live the life she was meant for. What if there was more out there for her? What if she could find a way to use her skills and passions in a way that truly fulfilled her? With a deep breath, Sarah opened a new document on her computer and began to write. At first, the words came slowly, as if she was coaxing them out of a deep well. But as she continued, the ideas began to flow more freely. She wrote about her journey, the challenges she had faced, and the lessons she had learned. Before she knew it, she had written several pages, her fingers flying across the keyboard. It was as if she had tapped into a well of creativity that had been dormant for far too long. As she read over what she had written, she felt a sense of excitement bubbling up inside her. The next day, Sarah approached her boss with a proposal. "Mark, I wanted to talk to you about my future here at the firm." Mark looked up from his computer, his brow furrowed with concern. "Is everything okay, Sarah? You seem a bit distracted lately." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to say. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I've realized that my heart isn't in this work anymore. I want to pursue something more meaningful, something that aligns with my values and passions." Mark leaned back in his chair, studying her intently. "I see. And what exactly did you have in mind?" "I want to start a blog, focusing on stories of personal growth and transformation," Sarah said, her voice gaining confidence with each word. I believe I can use my skills as a writer and my experiences to inspire and encourage others who are going through difficult times. Mark was silent for a moment, and Sarah felt her heart racing. What if he didn't understand? What if he thought she was being reckless? But then, to her surprise, Mark smiled. You know, Sarah, I've always admired your passion and dedication, and I can see that you've found something that truly excites you. If this is what you want to pursue, I support you. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Really? You're not upset? Mark shook his head. Not at all. In fact, I think it's a brilliant idea. You have a unique perspective and a gift for storytelling. I believe you can make a real difference with this blog. As Sarah left Mark's office, she felt a sense of exhilaration coursing through her veins. She had taken a leap of faith, and it had paid off. With renewed energy, she threw herself into her new project, pouring her heart and soul into every word she wrote. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's blog began to gain traction. She shared her story, her struggles, and her triumphs, and people responded with messages of encouragement and gratitude. She realized that by being vulnerable and authentic, she was creating a community of support and understanding. One day, as she was scrolling through her inbox, she came across an email from a publishing company. They had stumbled upon her blog and were impressed with her writing. They wanted to know if she would be interested in turning her story into a book. Sarah stared at the email, her heart pounding in her chest. A book? She had never even considered that possibility. But as she thought about it, she realized that this could be an incredible opportunity to reach even more people with her message of hope and resilience. With a deep breath, she replied to the email, expressing her interest. Over the next few months, she worked tirelessly on her book, pouring her heart and soul into every chapter. It was a labor of love, but it was also a testament to her journey and the power of letting go and trusting in God's plan. When the book was finally published, Sarah held a copy in her hands, marveling at the journey that had brought her to this moment. She thought back to the verse that had sustained her through it all, Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30, and felt a deep sense of gratitude. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. As she held the book, she knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She had found her calling, her purpose, and she was determined to use it to make a difference in the world. With God by her side and a heart full of hope, she stepped out into the unknown, ready to embrace whatever came next. Chapter 7. Paying It Forward. Months passed, and Sarah's life transformed in ways she had never imagined. Her book, Finding Light in the Darkness, had been well received, garnering praise from readers who resonated with her story of struggle and resilience. She had created a community around her blog, where people shared their own journeys, offering support and encouragement to one another. With newfound confidence, Sarah decided it was time to give back. Inspired by her own experiences and the kindness she had received from Sophia, she envisioned a nonprofit organization aimed at helping women in crisis. She wanted to create a safe space where women could find support, resources, and guidance during their most challenging times. One evening, as she sat at her kitchen table, Sarah began to sketch out her ideas. She wanted the organization to provide counseling services, job training, and financial literacy classes. She envisioned workshops where women could share their stories, just as she had done, and find strength in their shared experiences. After weeks of planning, she gathered a small group of women, friends, colleagues, and fellow writers who had expressed interest in helping her bring her vision to life. They met at a local cafe, the same one where she had first met Sophia, and the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her heart racing. "I'm so grateful for your support. I believe we can make a real difference in the lives of women who are struggling, just like I once was." As she shared her vision, she could see the spark of enthusiasm in their eyes. Each woman offered ideas, suggestions, and personal stories that enriched the conversation. Sarah felt a sense of purpose growing within her, fueled by the collective energy of the group. After several meetings, they officially launched Empower Her, a nonprofit dedicated to uplifting women in crisis. They secured a small office space and began reaching out to local businesses for sponsorships and partnerships. Sarah was amazed at the outpouring of support from the community. People were eager to contribute, whether through donations, volunteering their time, or offering their expertise. One Saturday, they held their first workshop at the office. The room was filled with women from all walks of life, each carrying their own burdens, but also a shared desire for change. Sarah stood at the front, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. "Welcome to Empower Her. Today, we're here to share our stories and support one another," she said, her voice steady. "I want you to know that you are not alone. We're in this together." As the women began to share their experiences, Sarah felt a deep sense of connection. Tears flowed, laughter erupted, and the room was filled with an atmosphere of healing and hope. It was everything she had envisioned and more. After the workshop, Sarah approached a woman named Lisa, who had shared a particularly moving story about her struggles with addiction and recovery. "Thank you for being so brave and sharing your story, Lisa," Sarah said, her heart swelling with admiration. "Your journey is inspiring." Lisa smiled, her eyes glistening. "Thank you, Sarah. This place means so much to me. I finally feel like I have a support system." Over the next few months, Empower Her continued to grow. They offered counseling services, job training programs, and financial literacy classes. Sarah found herself immersed in her work, pouring her heart into the organization and the women they served. One day, as she was organizing materials for an upcoming workshop, she received a call from a local news station. They wanted to feature Empower Her in a segment about community initiatives. Sarah's heart raced with excitement. This was an opportunity to reach even more women who might benefit from their services. When the day of the interview arrived, Sarah stood in front of the camera, her heart pounding. She spoke passionately about the mission of Empower Her, sharing her own story and the importance of community support. As she finished, she felt a wave of exhilaration wash over her. The segment aired the following week, and the response was overwhelming. Women began reaching out, eager to participate in workshops and seek support. Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced before. She was living out her purpose, helping others find their way through the darkness. One evening, as she was wrapping up a meeting, Sophia stopped by the office to check in. "I heard about the news segment. You did an amazing job, Sarah," she exclaimed, pulling her into a warm hug. "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without your support and encouragement," Sarah replied, her eyes shining with gratitude. Sophia smiled knowingly. "You've created something beautiful here, and it's making a real difference. I'm so proud of you." As they sat together, sipping coffee in the small office, Sarah reflected on her journey. She thought back to the moment she had first met Sophia, the struggles she had faced, and the leap of faith she had taken to pursue her dreams. It was a journey filled with challenges, but also one filled with hope, healing, and connection. "Do you remember when we first met?" Sarah asked, her voice soft. "I was so lost and overwhelmed. I never imagined I would be here, doing this." Sophia nodded, her eyes warm with understanding. "You've come so far, Sarah. You've turned your pain into purpose, and that's a powerful thing." As they talked, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had learned that life was not just about enduring the storms, but also about finding the strength to rise above them. And now she was committed to helping others do the same. With a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to embrace whatever came next, Sarah knew that Empower Her was just the beginning of her journey. Together, they would continue to uplift and empower women, creating a ripple effect of change in their community and beyond. Chapter 8: A Life Transformed. As the sun rose on a crisp autumn morning, Sarah stood in front of the large window in her office, watching the leaves dance in the breeze. The vibrant colors of orange, red, and gold filled her with a sense of warmth and gratitude. It was hard to believe how much had changed in just a year. Empower Her had blossomed into a thriving organization, serving hundreds of women in the community. The workshops were full, and the support groups had become a lifeline for many. Sarah felt a sense of fulfillment that she had never known before, a deep knowing that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Today was particularly special. They were hosting their first annual Empower Her Gala, an event to celebrate their achievements and raise funds for future programs. Sarah had poured her heart into planning this evening, and she was excited to see it all come together. As she arrived at the venue, a beautifully decorated community center, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Volunteers were setting up tables adorned with flowers, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Sarah's heart swelled with pride as she surveyed the scene. "Sarah, you did an amazing job," Sophia exclaimed, rushing over to give her a hug. "This place looks incredible." "Thank you. I can't believe it's finally happening," Sarah replied, her eyes shining with excitement. "I just hope everything goes smoothly." "It will. You've worked so hard for this," Sophia reassured her. "And remember, tonight is about celebrating the impact we've made together." As guests began to arrive, Sarah felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. She greeted each person with a smile, feeling the love and support from the community. Women from all walks of life came together, sharing stories of resilience and hope. It was a beautiful reminder of why she had started Empower Her in the first place. As the evening progressed, Sarah took a moment to step outside for some fresh air. The cool breeze brushed against her skin, and she closed her eyes, reflecting on her journey. She thought about the struggles she had faced, the moments of doubt, and the incredible support she had received from Sophia and the women around her. "Sarah," a voice called out, pulling her from her thoughts. She turned to see Lisa, the woman who had inspired her with her story of recovery. "I just wanted to thank you for everything. Empower Her has changed my life." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she embraced Lisa. "You've worked so hard, Lisa. You're an inspiration to so many." As they stood together, Sarah felt a profound sense of connection. This was what it was all about, lifting each other up, sharing stories, and creating a community of support. Later in the evening, Sarah took the stage to address the crowd. Her heart raced as she looked out at the sea of faces, each one representing a story of struggle and triumph. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady. "When I started Empower Her, I never imagined it would grow into what it is today. But it's not just about me. It's about all of us coming together to support one another." As she spoke, she shared her own journey, the challenges she had faced, the moments of doubt, and the incredible support she had received from friends like Sophia. She emphasized the importance of community and the power of vulnerability. "We are stronger together," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "And together, we can create change." The crowd erupted in applause, and Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had come so far, and it was all worth it. As the gala continued, Sarah mingled with guests, sharing laughter and stories. She felt a deep sense of belonging, knowing that she was part of something greater than herself. Later in the evening, Sophia approached her with a glimmer in her eye. "I have a surprise for you," she said, pulling Sarah aside. "We've been working on something special." Sophia handed Sarah a beautifully wrapped box. "Open it." With trembling hands, Sarah unwrapped the gift to reveal a stunning necklace with a pendant shaped like a tree. "It's a symbol of growth and resilience," Sophia explained. "Just like you, Sarah. You've grown so much, and you've helped so many others do the same." Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she hugged Sophia tightly. "Thank you. This means the world to me." As the evening drew to a close, Sarah stood outside, looking up at the stars twinkling in the night sky. She felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had led her to this moment, a moment filled with hope, love, and connection. In that moment, she whispered a prayer of gratitude. "Thank you, God, for guiding me through this journey. Thank you for the strength to embrace change and for the community that has grown around me. I am forever grateful." As she turned to head back inside, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning. Empower Her would continue to grow, reaching more women and creating a ripple effect of change in the community. With a heart full of hope and a spirit ready to embrace whatever came next, Sarah knew that she was living out her calling. She had transformed her pain into purpose, and in doing so, she had found her own light. And as she stepped back into the warmth of the gala, surrounded by laughter and love, she realized that she was exactly where she was meant to be.